Hi Starlings! So this is part 2 of wheelchair accessible places within the United States, which is where I reside. This is going to be about the lovely Los Angeles. I have been to Los Angeles 4 times now, I believe so. And out of all of the cities that I have visited and don't call home, I would say Los Angeles is actually pretty good. It's up there with Las Vegas. And if you saw my Las Vegas video, I did accidentally delete my closing clip and thoughts off my camera. So that's why the video is going to end a little bit short. But I would say Los Angeles is up there with Las Vegas in terms of accessibility, sidewalks, transportation, all of that fun stuff. The first time I ever visited Los Angeles was for 2021. I went to all the touristy spots with my friend. We stayed in downtown, which, little side note, don't ever stay in downtown if you can afford it. I would say spend the extra money and stay anywhere else. I stayed in downtown not once, but twice because I don't know how to learn my lesson. 2021, I went with a friend. It was my first time ever traveling without a guardian. It was my first time traveling without anyone that could, like an adult, further grown adult. So I was super excited. I was staying in downtown, which was a scary experience. I was grateful that we had better security at that hotel that we were staying at. Lyft is one company I really like to work with. I also work with Uber Wave, which is wheelchair accessible vehicles. You'll hear their name a lot. They are great. I do like their van services. I feel like a lot of their vans are up to code for manual wheelchairs. Remember, I'm in a manual wheelchair. I cannot walk at all, but a couple of times I did transfer into their regular seats because I do have a problem with some of their vans in terms of where I sit in them. In terms of where I sit in a van for Uber or Lyft, sometimes it'll be in the side where they'll take out a seat or two and in the middle of the van and you will just sit, and then there's a row of seats behind you so friends and family can sit there. Other vans, they keep the 2 middle seats of a van and then they put you in the back with the luggage. It's a lot of fun. The first time we were driving to Burbank, we were just gonna check out this shopping center in Burbank, and it was the first time we saw that they had vans where I was in the back, I was in the trunk, and it felt like a legal kidnapping. It was quite funny. Hannah made fun of me quite often for that, basically saying that I was a piece of cargo. So that was a lot of fun. I then learned quickly that there are more of those vans than not in Los Angeles. So if I can figure out and maneuver, I will sit in one of the regular seats and then my chair can just chill out in the back for all I care. So that is one thing to keep in mind. Some of these services will have you all the way in the back. We did hit up a lot of the touristy areas in Los Angeles. We hit up Santa Monica Pier, which if you don't have someone to help you, if you don't have a smart drive for your manual chair, if your manual chair is to break down while you're at the pier, good luck trying to get back up. It is so steep. I can handle a lot of steep hills, and I can usually handle steep ramps and hills. My torso energy is pretty good for a paraplegic as well as my arm strength. I would not have been able to make it back up that boardwalk. It was pretty much impossible. So luckily I had someone there to help me. If not, it would have ended quite different. So that is something to keep in mind with that touristy area. I would say also be very aware of timing. I'm also just a very paranoid woman in general. I was raised by a paranoid mother. I am paranoid, I've always been, so I am someone who goes at specific times to places in accordance to how my safety feels. So just keep that in mind, I would say, especially when going to certain areas. I would also say the Hollywood Walk of Fame. If it's something that you've been dying to see, you can see it once and then pretty much have seen it all. It is kind of what I expected, and that's not in a good sense. It's pretty darn ghetto. That's the only word that comes to mind. It's not great. I've been there, I can say that I did it. A piece of advice is don't just have your Uber or public transportation or your transportation just drop you off anywhere. I learned quickly from friends who live in the city that you park and you immediately go to your place, get back in your car. You don't walk anywhere, especially in downtown or in the major parts of Hollywood. As unfortunate as it is, that's just how it goes out there. We also, where else did we visit on that first trip? We didn't visit really a lot of places. Those were kind of like the main ones. But the first trip was great. It was a great way to figure out where all the, I call them boroughs. I know they're not boroughs, they're more like townships, like your Burbank, your Glendale, your Sherman Oaks, your Moore Park, your Torrance. You have all of these places. I call them boroughs because they're just cities within the LA County, I guess, but LA County doesn't even stretch to some of those areas. So I call them boroughs of Los Angeles. I was so glad that I went. So now I know the areas far better for the second trip. My second trip was in 2022. It was for my very first big movie premiere with a major company. I was super excited. I was super happy. We stayed in downtown again because downtown is bigger than what I thought. I have now learned my lesson. It took me 2 tries. I got it right the third time's the charm. So we did stay in downtown, Ruth and I, and we stayed in 2 really nice hotels. They were great hotels. It was just everywhere around it sucked. So we went to, I don't remember which park it was, but it was right under the Hollywood sign. And it was so cool to get there. Public transportation was great. Sidewalks, I like them. They're fine. I also just like popping wheelies and I'm pretty good at them, knock on wood. So I know a lot of people complain about the sidewalks and sidewalk management. I urge them to come to an East Coast area and try to navigate the sidewalks here. So, or I would suggest going to Mexico and trying to navigate those sidewalks where the ramp is this. It is not this. It is not this. It is this. They are very steep and God help you if you're drunk. So I think that, you know, the sidewalk situations, they're fine. You will have your occasional cracks and big cracks and your potholes in the sidewalks, but I've become pretty adept to bobbing and weaving my way through those. So I didn't really have any problems with those personally. Now, if you have a power chair, that's a totally different story. And if you don't have as much control while in a manual chair, totally different story. But if you know someone that is similar in my predicament, or you yourself are in a similar predicament, just know Los Angeles is up there with Vegas being highly accessible on public streets, sidewalks, what have you, and getting to those places. It stayed mainly near the LAX airport. I was there for a convention, which was super cool. And I had really gotten like my sea legs with the city and figuring it all out. So it was super nice. And a lot of those hotels actually do offer shuttles that have the wheelchair ramp, so you don't have to pay an Uber to drive 5 minutes to get to a hotel if you're staying near the LAX airport. Something I don't really recommend because I find them to be overpriced and you're out of the way of everything. You are just in airport city, basically, because everything you want to see or want to go do is an hour away on a good day without traffic. That's my little nugget of advice to you. I would say if you're flying domestic, which means you're flying from another US state to Los Angeles, I would highly recommend just paying the extra money if you can afford it and just flying in and out of the Burbank airport, because you are already then pretty much in the heart of everything you want to see and go do, rather than having to, one, navigate LAX's really stupidly not convenient at all map out of where they put Uber and Lyft and taxis. It's horrible. It's horrible to get there. And if you didn't know there was a shuttle, because they don't advertise it in LAX, you're gonna be so lost from where you're supposed to be going. And I was lucky to even get on the shuttle. And I was traveling solo this time, all on my own. So I was constantly worried about bags getting lost or stolen because I was the first one on, but the last one off, and my bag was in the way because they didn't know where to put it. Just fly in from an airport that is closer to the things you want to be at. There's the Van Nuys airport, there's the Burbank airport, there's LAX, of course, and there are airports that I can't even think of right now. There are airports everywhere, and a lot of them do fly in and out domestically throughout the United States. LAX is pretty much for international, and you're for sure going to have a plane that's coming in and out to your state or city to get there. However, if you can figure out that there is a flight through Burbank, I 20 out of 10 recommend doing that instead. I also had gone back and a second time in 2023. And I would definitely say, if you like amusement parks, go to the Knott's Scary Farm, or Berry Farm, if you will. I would say if you are in a wheelchair, there might not be nearly as many things during the rest of the year at the Knott's Berry Farm amusement park, and Universal might be the way to go, or Disneyland might be the way to go for you. But if you love Halloween, you love spooky nights, but you don't want to spend a fortune and wait 6 hours or so in a queue at Hollywood Studios Fright Nights, I would definitely recommend the Knott's Scary Farm. It was so much fun. I didn't care that they were all non-copyright characters. I got spooked. I loved it. I love horror. I love Halloween. I love spooky things. And I had a blast. I think I would have had more of a blast there than I would have at Hollywood Studios. But I will go to the Hollywood Studios one of these days before I die. Isn't really much else to say about Los Angeles. I would say you have better chances throughout LA County dealing with Lyft rather than Uber, because Lyft expands a little bit more to the outer skirts of LA County. You also should check their websites, whatever city you're in, to see if they even offer wheelchair accessibility. They usually call it WAVE, W-A-V, wheelchair accessible vehicles, and they don't cover every county. As you will see when I talk about is Florida wheelchair accessible, especially Orlando, Florida, because with wheelchair accessible vehicles, they don't stretch out to everywhere. So I stayed in Montebello for a little bit in California, and they just barely reach there to come and pick me up. I also went to Redondo Beach for a business thing, and they didn't have wheelchair accessible vehicles at all to get me back to the airport. They drove me there, but they couldn't come pick me up. It was very confusing. So just keep that in mind if you are going and you have someone that needs that assistance, or you yourself need that assistance. They don't span out everywhere in Los Angeles. Even though it is one city, they may only cover LA County and not other counties, just so you know. And that's kind of it for Los Angeles. Maybe I'll do an updated video sometime in the future as I get to know the boroughs more and I get to know different parts and areas more. Like downtown was probably like the least accessible, mainly because I didn't want to leave my hotel. Whereas places like Sherman Oaks and Burbank were super accommodating and easy to navigate in a wheelchair. I would say just know where you're going and look into it as much as you can. I hope this helped. If you have any questions about Los Angeles and accessibility, please feel free to comment it down below or message me on my social media. They are all linked down in my description box below, along with coupon codes at stores to save you money and books that I have written. I have published 4 novels through Amazon. Living large, baby. But with all that being said, I will see you all later.